president. And our agenda for tonight is the president's report, treasurer's report, general manager's report, and we're gonna do a Q&A. So, and I've got housekeeping items from Mama Susanna that I have to read. So there are index cards on your chair. You can use those to submit a question during Q&A. Please put your name and address on those in case we need to get back with you. Hold up your card when you're ready and staff will make their way to you to collect the card and bring it up to the podium. We've already got some questions, so that's a good thing. And if you're on Zoom, use the chat section at the bottom of your screen and again, type your name and address so we can respond to you afterwards and get to it during the meeting. So, President's report. I'm going to be fairly brief. I don't think that anybody came here to listen to me talk, but I would be more than happy to talk during the Q&A. If you all have questions, please do submit those. So our board of directors for 2024 is up there on the screen. Myself, Chris Gallagher, Vice President, Don Collins, Treasurer, Jane Alfred, Secretary, Tim Barry, Bo Keen, Jim Panapinto, Pete Sparzo, and Dale Todd. They do a tremendous amount of work and in service to this community. So if we could just give them a round of applause.
Applause.
Likewise, we have got 56 members of the community. Those are your friends and neighbors and family members who dedicate their time, energy, and effort serving on a committee. They are all listed on the screen. And if we have anybody in the audience who is a committee member in Moss Creek, if you would please stand up, let's give those folks a round of applause. So much. They really are the backbone of governance here in Moss Creek and cannot say enough good things about the work that they do. Okay, 2023 key performance highlights. So this is a review of some of the things that happened last year, some of the things, not all of the things, but certainly the good things that we want to highlight. There was a lot that happened in Moss Creek. I'm sure that you've all seen that for sure. So again, a successful navigation of economic constraints that we are facing. And Don's going to talk about those more later in his report. Search for and hired a new general manager, Scott, sitting over there. If there is anybody who has not met Scott who is sitting in this room, I would be absolutely shocked. But if those people exist in real life, please do schedule some time to sit down with Scott. He is a tremendous add to the community and he's done yeoman's work here so far in his time with us. Clubhouse renovation, so you all are sitting in a beautiful new clubhouse. New golf cart fleet. Yeah. Whole bunch of road paving. Yeah, I've got some thoughts for that one. And new playground, among other things. Next slide. Okay, so our 2024 focus. And our real focus is going to be the board goals. And I would encourage everybody, if you haven't seen those, go out on the website, take a look at those. They're much more high level than they have been in the past, I believe. But do take a look at those. But on this slide, really what I want to highlight is some of the good things that you're going to see coming out of Moss Creek in 2024. So the financial stability of the community, again, Don's going to touch on that. That's of utmost importance to us and the board for sure. Communication. I've said this in the past, but communication, and more communication. It costs us nothing to communicate well, and it adds a great deal to the community for sure. That is a focus, and it will continue to be a focus. The 50th anniversary, so we are celebrating our 50th birthday this year. Hopefully everybody's seen it tonight. Keep double checking. It's June 20th. 21st. Strategic planning. So we're going to be going through the strategic planning process this year. It will in fact be a process. What I will tell you about that is that there's going to be a culture shift for sure in governance here. It's going to be more strategic, less tactical. That is the shift that we are making as we go through 2024. We're not going to get it all done in 2024 as far as that culture shift, but it's going to start for sure. Preparing the North Course for the 2025 renovation, and then GPS. So those are some of the highlights for the 2024 focus. I believe that is all of my slides. I'll go ahead and introduce Don Collins, our treasurer, to give our treasurer's report.
Welcome, everybody. Happy to be here, to be your treasurer. I'm going to be going from notes to the presentation, so excuse that, please. But I wanted to,
Janet Kelly's yawning on there.
Yawning?
talk to you already.
Somebody else.
So anyway, to summarize what I'm gonna talk about, we're gonna discuss the roles of the finance committee, the audit committee, very important, introduce the members and give you a summary of the MCOA and its financial health. And then at the end, answer questions that may arise. So basically, the finance committee's major role is just to ensure that our decisions represent what the community needs or its best interest. We basically we spent some time trying to come up with a statement that we thought represented what we should be doing, and basically that statement is to provide an exceptional mix of services and amenities that enhances the appeal, value, and quality of life for our members while protecting the assets of our association. So that's kind of what the finance committee's focus is, as well as the entire board of directors. We do review monthly budgets every 30 days. We go through an effort to review insurance policies, employee benefit programs. We monitor capital expenditures. We review facilities and infrastructure ideas and projects. We do recommend an annual 5-year plan to the board. We believe it's important to look in advance with our financial projections. And then ultimately, we recommend a budget each year for the board's consideration. This year, obviously, will be the 2025. Members on the committee that I'm very fortunate to have, I have Dale Todd as my vice chair, Larry Clayton, Stan Potter, Bruce Roberts, George Viveris, Brian Yantis, and Claire Goddard. Chris Herbishon participates as an ex officio. Scott Julian and Payman Shamu represent the management team. And it's a good group. We spend a lot of time together trying to do what's best for the community. Very important is an annual audit process. Those of you who are familiar with the corporate world, companies are audited, their financials are checked and balanced every year by outside parties, and we're no different. We actually have a committee that deals with an outside audit firm. That committee is chaired by Dick Obry. Consists of Patrick Hughes, Judy Johnson, Lynn McFeeters, Jim Winslow, and I participate occasionally as an ex officio, being the treasurer. So basically, if we look at the end of 23, we're in very good financial shape. Balance sheet is strong. We've got $6.6 million in cash that consists of reserve capital as well as what we call unrestricted cash. So we have an adequate reserve account. 23 left us with a net surplus, which exceeded budget. And the ownership piece that we as members enjoy in the community, referred to as equity, increased during the year by 10%. So that's all good news. The operating results, we had a revenue that came in $75,000 under budget. We had expenses that came in $131,000 over budget. Doesn't sound like good news, but when you look at the overall scheme of things and the budget amount, it's not overly impactful. We had the clubhouse not open as quickly as we were anticipating. So we had some differences in expenses and revenues. If we move forward, this is a little hard for me to see, but everybody has access to this presentation, and without looking at it, what it's really doing is it's demonstrating where all the revenue is coming from. And the big blue piece you see is basically wages and salaries. And slightly to the left on the bottom is employee benefits. So we're in the 60 to 65% of our, actually I was looking at revenue, that the blue spot in revenue was HOA fees and certificate fees. Now we're looking, go ahead, Payman. Now we're looking at the expense piece. And the employee wages and salaries represent the bulk of that, with employee benefits in the lime green. So we have non-operating results. What's non-operating results? That's primarily certificate fee income that everybody hears about. very critical to the community. We had revenue of 3.5 million. We only budgeted 1,940,000, so we're enjoying 1,600,000 in excess or surplus, as we like to say. So we have a surplus of 1,625,000. A few things, and if you look at the, the highlighted items on the bottom, there's a few things that have occurred there that are really not something that's gonna be duplicated, unfortunately, but we had a large employee retention credit that was kind of coming off the tail end of COVID. That was money from the federal government that was basically given to us because we retained most of our employees through that whole debacle. We had a gain on our sale of equipment that's basically kind of like a book sale. And I'm gonna talk about that a little bit more when we get to the equipment loan that involves our golf carts and our golf maintenance equipment. You can move on, Pam. Here's where we spent cash. The top 4 projects in the year, basically, as everyone can guess. Number 1 was the clubhouse. We spent $3.8 million in cash on that. We put $850,000 into roads. We put $266,000 into the North Golf Course renovation. That was ahead of schedule. As many of you may know, the renovation is scheduled for 25. We had an opportunity to purchase some items that are gonna be needed for that renovation in advance and save about 10% of their acquisition costs. So we made a decision to pull that expense into 23. We also resurfaced the pool to the tune of $103,000. Expensive pool. Here's basically the bottom line. You're looking at operating with a $206,000 shortfall. You're looking at non-operating with $1,600,000 surplus, ending the year with $1,400,000. So all good on the 23 front. If you look at our line of credit, so we have line of credit, like most businesses do, and fortunately, at least in my tenure, to my knowledge, we've never had to use it. But it's there, and this basically what it is the ability to borrow money, literally write a check. It's already established, nothing's questioned. Fortunately, we haven't had to touch it. Our clubhouse renovation loan is down to $1,790,000 at the end of the year. It goes down maybe $20,000 a month or so on principal, a little faster than that. The golf cart loan balance is $586,000. My new glasses aren't working very well. And the golf maintenance and equipment loan is $965,000. So our total debt is $3.3 million. I wanted to talk about the golf cart loan because I don't know that everyone understands what we're doing there. So a lot of places you'll hear they will lease their golf cart fleet and they'll lease some of the corresponding equipment that's used to maintain the golf course. And we've determined that we're better off buying it. We get a substantial tax advantage in doing so. And when we purchase our golf carts and our equipment, we make a deal with the supplier and they agree that they're gonna buy it back from us at the end of the term. This past year, the big delay that resulted in getting the carts had nothing to do with the fact that we were buying versus leasing. It was simply the vendor's ability to make the product available, which wasn't there. So that's why we do what we do when it comes to golf equipment and golf carts. Our year-end cash position is pretty good. We have 2.7 million in cash or cash equivalents. And we have restricted cash. If you notice, it's applied to 2 of the different specific neighborhoods that we have, Stablegate and Royal Point, an escrow account and an emergency. So that's money that we don't plan on using for anything, hopefully. We do have a reserve fund. That's 3,536,000. So our total cash position is 6.5 million. That reserve fund is pretty much targeted already. So we have a reserve study that's done every 3 years by a third party, and it identifies the life and health of all of the different assets that we have, right down to the chairs you're sitting on. And it gives us an idea of when we're gonna have to replace things, items, what the cost will be, et cetera. So we have a understanding moving forward a number of years of what our capital expenditures will be just to maintain. And that's what that reserve fund is primarily there for. We have a strong balance sheet. I mentioned earlier that we have, our ownership piece being members went up about 10%. And this is where it's demonstrated. Basically, you just look at the bottom line, total equity and liabilities is $35 million, almost $36 million. It's gone up about 1.8 million during last year. Here is the 24 budget. We have a revenue anticipation of 15 million, expenses of 15, slightly less, leaving us a surplus of 74. Revenue projected at $1,940,000 on the non-operating side. Marginal expenses, 144,000, so we're looking at a surplus of $1,796,000. That's basically it. I think there was one or two other things I wanted to touch on. We saw how we've done very well with certificate fee income, historically, at least in the time that I've been here. But what we've also learned is it's very unpredictable. So we're doing a lot of research, we're doing a lot of studying, we're doing a lot of financial modeling. When I say we, I mean the committee, as well as our management team. Trying to look and see what we can do to come up with a revenue source that's more dependable, less up and down. We don't want to get caught in a time period where we lose a substantial amount of revenue and are not prepared for it. I have no reason to think that the real estate market is going to dry up, so there's no doom and gloom. We started out the year, January was a weak month, but we've bounced back already in terms of certificates of income, and we have we monitor what we call a pipeline. And our pipeline is looking at homes that are under contract, when their anticipated closing is, whether or not they generate a certificate fee income, and to what extent is that fee. And the pipeline looks very good. But I just wanted everybody to be aware that we're uncomfortable a little bit in the potential for certificate fee income to bounce up and down. I think this concludes my presentation, payment, So I'm gonna introduce our new general manager, who you all seem to know anyway, Scott Julian.
Thank you. So I think I've officially been here for 104 days. So, and it only feels like 103, so that's good. I'm gonna start just by saying, both Becky and I are really blessed to be back in the Low Country. It's been many, many years and we're kind of settling in. I'm very appreciative to many of you in this room. I think I have officially sat down with 140 people, one-to-one. I've probably visited 5 dozen houses, and I have standing weekly meetings with 2 of you in this room. And what I would say is every bit of that is important to me because I learn so much every time I get a chance to sit down with you. If you haven't sat down with me and you have an issue, I encourage you to. Dawn brought up a couple topics of our reserve study. Kind of our uneasiness with the risk of being fully dependent on certificate fees and those types of things. And these are things we want to talk to everybody about. So I would welcome you to come in and see the reserve study, just see what we're doing, talk to us about what we're doing, but I'm gonna kind of step away from that. I really learned a lot from you all, and I've tried to do a perspectives meeting about every 6 weeks. It was super fun to start with ARB. But I have to say, once again, I walked in and I thought, this would probably be my least favorite topic to have my first perspective meeting ever. But it was actually probably my best one because it really brought people out. I learned a lot. I had a lot of follow-up. I visited a lot of homes. I really like what the ARB is doing. A lot of efforts to kind of plain speak the guidelines, really prioritize relationships as well as rules. I think we've been working really close with Jan, and I can't give her high enough marks, honestly, for I think just the shift in the culture a little bit. And then I had one that was less attended, which was on communication. And that's something that I feel like I'm still trying to find my rhythm a little bit. I feel like I can't communicate enough. Maybe I'm communicating too much, but I think I'd rather get out there and communicate a little bit too much than not enough at all. My next one is gonna be super fun. It's on May 21st and it's on food and beverage.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, we're gonna control that a little bit. You know, I'm interested in how we feel about content. I'm interested in how you feel about quality, and I'm interested in how you feel about how we care for you. So I think that one will be, we'll put a few more seats in the room for that one, I think. Now, that being said, I think you have an amazing staff here. I mean, you really do. This group has a tremendous eye care factor. They care deeply. And, you know, we're gonna work on a little bit more training. You know, you've got some stalwarts here that just know everything, and we've got some new people that I think are fantastic, and it's really on us to make sure that they succeed. So, in my mind, the fish rots from the head down, so it's on us to make sure that we are, spending time, you know, training them and whatever, so. I think really in my first 104 days, what I've learned is, I can be better. I can be better at a lot of things. And I think that's the focus of, you know, your entire leadership team is we're really looking at ourselves and saying, what can we do better? And a lot of it I learned from you all, you know, sitting down, you know, I may sit down and some meetings might start out a little rough. But as we kind of sort through all this stuff, there's this little nugget of validity that every single one of you brings to us. And I want you to know that we listen to hear what you're saying. Our hope is that we can really bank it and make that happen. So I've got a lot of really excellent suggestions. I would tell you that I think the people that are most important is this big lineup right here. And I would introduce them. Yeah, stand up once more. This entire group up here on the screen, this is a group that works really hard. You know, we are not perfect, but we're pretty darn good. And I think the focus of all of us is really the fact that we know we can be better. You know, we can be better tomorrow than we are today. You know, we're not gonna beat ourselves up about it, but we know that's possible. And that's our focus. And I think as we interact with you and we learn what you think better looks like, it helps us understand what we think better needs to look like. This group here has helped me really not mess it up in my first 104 days. The person who's missing is Suzanne Johnson. Susanna is something special. And she's not here tonight, which makes me a little easy. It's like being around my wife. I'm a little excited, a little scared. Susanna has been an incredible partner. I come in with these new thoughts and these crazy new ideas, and Susanna, you know, has this amazing imagination and just kind of make sure that I get that longer term vision of this community, because this community will be around for 50 years after I'm long gone. And so I think, you know, I get just a very short window to steward your community. And my job is really not to mess that up. And I really look at everybody in this room, and I think of this entire group right here. We're all stewards. You know, we look at people who've been on the board 20 years ago. This community has tremendous potential, and I think we all see it. And I'm trying to talk the board into giving me a grocery store and a gas station. So that you never leave your bubble ever. $5 martinis. I would encourage you, I'm not hard to find. I would really encourage you to, you know, I tried to make sure you don't have to come looking for me. And so it's important that you stop me and pull me aside and tell me, feel free to send me an email. I don't like emails, you know, I tend to kind of shoot one and you shoot one back. And at that point, I'd really prefer to meet with you rather than email, because so much gets lost in the context of email. So I super encourage you. I have a fairly busy schedule, but I can't encourage you enough to get on my schedule. I think most of these people have access to my schedule, so they can get you on my schedule. Really just want to keep this contact coming. And I'm sure I will see all of you and maybe 100 more for the food and beverage perspective. I want to say something really quickly. You know, we are listening and we're shifting. And I think, you know, we've got some healthier food on the menu. This recent change got us a little bit closer. You know, love to see a pizza, love to see a few more things. I think we know what you're looking for, but you know, we don't walk on water, make square circles or read minds. So just being able to talk to each other is really important and hopefully we're responsive. So I thank you for my first 104 days and I thank these people for doing a great job with this town.
That brings us to the Q and A portion of the meeting. So if you've got a question on a note card, please hold it up. Staff will collect those. And we've got some to get us going while that happens. So number one was Moss Creek paid to host the SoCon tournament that just concluded.
Greenspeeds and let's see.
So the next question is, this show how much?
Not enough.
Not enough.
I don't know, Chris, I apologize. 1,500 a team.
1,500 a team. Decision to host the tournament was made by the board or at a different level. It was not made by the board, and the decision happens. GM and golf professional.
During the calendar process.
And I think that covers those. We've got some others.
Can you repeat that? Chris,
Yes.
we're having a hard time hearing the answer.
Was Moss Creek paid to host the SoCon tournament, the golf tournament? Yes. 1,500 a team. Was the decision made by the board? No, that happens between the GM and the golf professional. Basically, the answers. Good. Okay. Next question. Oh, boy. Yeah, I can't read this, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. Look at something else, sorry. Okay. So when will Boswick Pavilion be renovated? It is heavily used, but looking quite shabby, especially needs a new floor. So that is not something that I would say is currently on the schedule. It is something that we're looking at. There was a Boswick master plan that was put together by F&I last year. And I would say that there's really no timetable to look to spend funds, look at that. There's no final plan. It's something that we're considering, but there's no definitive date or scope of project. Certificate fee. Okay, so this basic question is, why doesn't the certificate fee vary with the price of the home?
Really, there's a number of, we've discussed this a number of times, and it's literally been discussed for decades with this community. It's in our bylaws, it's in our covenants. Basically, when you live in Moss Creek, you represent the same expense and the same revenue opportunity to the community, regardless of the value of the house that you live in. So if you lived in a $200,000 house or a $2 million house, you still have the same option of coming to the clubhouse. You still benefit from the security, from the roads, from the maintenance, golf courses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's always been the premise, that's always been the belief. I think it's a good one. I think if we were to consider a different methodology of looking at the value of the home as compared to the value of the certificate fee, it would just lend itself to a huge amount of discord and disputes, and it would not be equitable.
Stay up there, I'll go. Talk about 6.6 million in unrestricted cash.
Well, I can talk about that. We don't have that, first of all. We have 6.6 million in total cash. 3.6 million of which is in our capital reserve fund. I mentioned earlier during my presentation that that money is spoken for. So if you look at our total of 6.7 million or 6.6 million rather, and then look at the amount of that we have in capital reserve, which is well greater than half. That money is, we might as well consider it spent unless we're gonna let things go downhill. Every year, things depreciate in value. And when they depreciate in value, the asset base goes down. The item itself may be in need of repair or replacement. So the purpose of that capital reserve study, which we are scrutinizing in recent months more than I've ever seen before, not because it's bad, but because it's very important to the community and to our financial health. That reserve study tells us we're gonna be spending about $2 million a year to keep things the way they are. So to have a cash position of $6.6 million, to me is a very smart thing. I wish it was $8.6 million, you know, and I'd also like to point out that we've had a very fortunate run going all the way back to Hurricane Matthew before I even lived here. We put a 7-figure deposit in our bank account from our insurance companies after the cleanup from Hurricane Matthew. That went straight to the bottom line. That's not gonna happen again. Insurance companies don't insure trees anymore. They did that and they regret it. We had, last year we had 800 come from the ERC. The year before we had 300 and change. So we've put $1.2 million in our pockets courtesy of the federal government. We've had certificate fee income much higher than anyone could have expected because of the rapid turnover and the desirability of living in Moss Creek. These things can change real fast. You know, we have larger deductibles now. When we had Hurricane Matthew, we made money. If we have another Hurricane Matthew, trust me, we're not making money. And we won't look bad having a whole bunch of cash on hand now. Maybe that's more than you were looking for, but that's my answer. What is a cash equivalent? It's basically money or anticipated money or an asset. We have money invested in treasuries. So that is another point. When we talk about having cash, it's not sitting somewhere collecting dust. We're earning money with the money that we're not using. So that's not a bad thing. Thank you for mentioning that. I'm off the hook. But I don't know whether this question was asked before I talked about the golf cart loan or after it. After, okay, so let me see if I can understand what can you speak to the golf cart and equipment deal a little more? Well, I'm not exactly sure what you're looking for, Scott, but basically, so we agree on a purchase price. We agree on a buyback price. And we seek financing from a different party.
So your terms are 4 years, 5 years? 3-year term?
Every 3 years.
And you're gonna lose X number of dollars on each one of the carts over that time period?
Well, it's gonna depreciate in value.
Yeah, so what does your residual look like after the end of 3 years, and how does it, offset the depreciation?
Payment, what kind of residual value do we have? Do you know?
So we do 1/3 residual, 30%,
Mhm.
and then we usually, the balloon payment comes in from the trade-off. And once we get the trade-in, we service the remaining.
Yeah, I worked in the industry and
Yeah.
understand the mechanisms, just looking for the best deal for us, that's all.
Can you get us quicker cards next time? I think that's it.
Okay, so a couple of you asked about the comment that I made about moving from tactical to strategic. So the way that I would kind of give an example of that. Tactical would be, you order a drink at the bar, you hop behind the bar and you make it yourself because you like it just so. And then strategic is, what do we wanna be when we're 60? We're 50 now, what do we wanna be when we're 60? What is the vision for the future? So helping to move us in a direction to set that vision for the future, and then what are the steps to get there? So that's the strategic part. I think probably over the last few years, certainly we've become a little bit more tactical. It's time for us to make that shift now and become a little bit more strategic. Good? Okay, Scott, you're up.
Okay, I have three. So the first one, I met with you on this one, and good to share with the group. So this one says, what has happened to our, yield to the left sign when we enter Moss Creek? So I've actually, I think in somewhere along my 100+ meetings, I think I've talked to a couple people, and I think what we're trying to accomplish here is when you drive in to Moss Creek on the left, it says real to your right. And so typically I'm talking to Jim or somebody and I drive through and all of a sudden someone's coming to my right. And the fear is we might run into each other. So Chief Jim and I have already decided that we're gonna kind of get a sign in that middle island that just, says, yield to your right. So that when you're looking left, to yield to your right. And then if you look right, you'll yield to your right also. So that's just a matter of time at this point. We're gonna order the sign and install that. That should help. Let me see, where's my other ones? Are there plans to expand the leisure trails along Cat Briar Lane? How about a companion trail on the other side of Moss Creek Drive? So we're in the process of updating our roads and leisure trails study. So we have a full study, we have a full map, and if anybody was really curious and interested, you can come in and see, what we've accomplished and what's left to be done. So when we get that study completed, we'll then look at the roads. Some of the roads really, we need to focus on just some of the shoulders. There's just pieces of the roads with having to come in and replace the entire road. And I've actually got a couple of thought partners on the F&I are gonna help me kind of really look at the road study, look at the leisure trail study, and determine, hey, where can we, one, go get some extra useful life out of these roads? And then number two, a lot of times we'll be chasing after a drainage issue. So we're looking at drainage, we're looking at roads, and we're looking at the leisure trails also. So I'll kind of keep that one in my pocket, because that might be a nice one just to maybe do a little perspectives meeting or a little cocktail party on it, whatever, just to fill people in on what we're doing with the roads and the leisure trails. Okay, got another one. Can we get an update on the North Course renovation and the marina expansion? Yes. I'll expand on it just a little bit too. So I'm actually meeting with the Boat Owners Association on Friday at 3:00. And so trying to create some thought partners on that. David Yardo is gonna kind of quarterback that for me. And we're gonna really go through and talk about the marina expansion. One of the things that we've accomplished this year is we did a bathymetry study of the whole marina. So for roughly $4,500. When the study was done originally, it was just done with like a depth stick. So they went around on a boat and stuck a stick in the water to kind of get a sense of what it is. This is a fairly good expenditure, so we figured having the bathymetric study of that whole area will be really good. And at the end of the day, the boat owners in the marina can kind of own that along with MCOA. And if they do that study every 3 years or 5 years, we'll really see what's happening in that marina. So that was the first step. The second step was, we have 40 pilings in the marina, and we have, I think, about 15 in the waterway. The useful life on those is roughly 20 years. The pilings are all in excess of 30 currently. So every piling is roughly $4,500 to replace, and that's if we don't break it off and have to go get a piece of it out of the mud. So, there's some dollars associated with this. So we're gonna have a good assessment of our pilings. We're gonna have an excellent assessment of the actual depths in the marina. And really, I'm gonna work with the boat owners on that one and work with Dave and my thought group to set up a meeting so we can really share with you the rest of the story. Anybody who wants to come and have a conversation any deeper than that, grab me on a Saturday or Sunday morning, be happy to kind of go over that. North Course, Chris Gallert, Christopher Rashawn, myself, Don Collins, as we kind of get this thing where we want to get it, we want to sit down and have a real comprehensive meeting on the North Course, really to set the expectations for the whole project, and the elements that we're going to be doing. I would tell you just, I've been lucky to live through 3 of these. This is an asset replacement study or exercise. You know, what's happening with this, and please engage me. I'm not gonna take too much longer here on this, but right now, what we're doing is a complete replacement of the irrigation system. It's old, it needs to be replaced. The main lines are ancient, our coverage is poor. So just like at your home, you're gonna replace your irrigation system occasionally. Your golf course has a much bigger irrigation system than your yard. So that is a major element of this. The second piece is gonna be really, your greens currently, if you're ever out there sometime and you pulled the liner of the cup out, you will see how terrible the dirt is in that hole. It's basically mud, organic matter. In a period of some years, you will not be growing grass on those greens. And so a useful life of USGA green has about 20 years on it. Depending on what your soil composure is, it can be less. You have to replant your greens at some point in time. And so when we do that, we'll probably do a little bit of expansion. Other than those 2 things, really, it's gonna be resurfacing of the tees. We'll probably expand those a little bit. They're very small. They're very beat up. And I would tell you, it's not your golf club that beats up a tee. It's your feet. You know, you stand on that tee and get ready, and that thing is just getting beat up. So there are no bells and whistles on this North Course. If I drove in tomorrow and instead of saying Moss Creek on that sign coming in, it said Scott Julian Country Club, I would probably add bunkers. I would do something to have a little sex appeal. But the reality is, I think your board has been very responsible, and this is purely asset replacement. So you deserve more than that, and we will do a solid perspective meeting on the North Course. See what else I got. Comments on this one. Is there anything being done to address the golf website reservation system? Can I follow up with something written to y'all? I think I owe you something better than, I haven't really delved deep into that subject, Tom.
Yeah, so we,
Here, hold on.
we sent emails, to Club Essential. We send emails to Club Essential. When I get back and after the member guest, Susanna and I are gonna go through, create a list and contact, I think it was Tommy, and go through and get all of those items double checked and make sure that they're working as they should.
I'm gonna call that more to come. Okay, last question. This is marina, and I think this is a very good question. So if the marina is the marina
Expansion.
expansion going to happen before the permit expires? Okay, the permit is actually good through March of 27. And so working with McSweeney, who's the folks who are gonna help us kind of go through this whole project, the engineering company. If we have a piling in the water by February of 27, we are good to go. And in speaking to Bill Barta, who's with McSweeney, he is very confident that if we have them engaged a couple months before that, that we could easily get an extension through 27. So that's what our permit allows. Now, the permit also doesn't allow for any dredging. You know, we're not pulling dirt, we're not taking it out, we're not putting it anywhere because that's very expensive. And so this is a no dredging permit. So when we get the bath study in, we can see what the depths are. We'll really know a lot more about what that looks like, but we're good through March of 27.
Do we know how many slips are gonna be added?
28, I believe,
Are they
all various sizes.
various sizes?
Yes, sir. One of the things that we're gonna do, and this is Dave and I have been spending some time talking about this, and I presented something to the boat owners group at a fishing seminar they had, which was excellent. And basically, We're talking about putting the plan online and having an area that you can go to on the website just to kind of know what our steps are. Basically, we have an initiative and we want to track that initiative. And really, not a lot of people see the plan, which I'm, well, happy to show anybody, but we want to get that out there a little bit more.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Question. I have a question from Lee Traeger. The question is, how did the cash position nearly double from 22 to 23? Lee, to my best of my recollection, it did not. So I don't think that's an accurate statement. However, I'm willing to be wrong. I'll look it up. I don't recall offhand. My contact info is on our website. Feel free to reach out to me. We can talk about it.
Will do.
And I can give you
That
some.
was in the
facts.
audit.
Okay.
That was in the audit. I
Okay.
will.
All right, great. The second question is, per note 2 of the financial statements and certificate fees recognized when received, why is the association even including this or counting on this? And I think what you're asking is, why are we including this as revenue in our community? It's a substantial piece of revenue. If we didn't include it, we would need to get it from the membership. So historically, we know, we literally have history that goes back from the beginning of the corporation in terms of how many certificate fees were realized and during which calendar year. So there's never been a year where we didn't generate some revenue from it. There has been some swings. To just simply exclude it from our budgeting process would add about $1,940,000 to our HOA fee, which is presently about 7.8 million. So you're looking at a substantial change there, and that's why we continue to budget for it. We don't have, most communities, many communities like ours have what we call have what we call a capital fee. A capital fee is designed simply to fund capital needs, whether they be needs from reserve study, whether they be aspirational wants and desires. We wanted to renovate the clubhouse. We kind of needed to, it depends on who you talk to. But we don't have a capital fee here. And we've been relying on funding our capital needs through certificate fees. If we stop doing that, it would place a substantial additional financial burden on the membership.
That's very true.
So this one says, Bosworth Park needs some attention, paint on the outside railings, some landscaping. Is that on your annual maintenance facilities plan? So, it just sounds like it's something we just need to do. So I think that, we have different assets, and I would say if I look at, paint on the outside railings, this isn't probably a reserve study item, so I'll just kind of put that in my pocket and we'll save that one and we'll take a look at that one and see if we can address that. This is a fun one. Can you speak to the current environmental health of our pond system? So, hey, it actually is a big deal. So the thing about it is, the pond system, runs through our world basically. And, it is a priority and needs to be a priority. And it's very interesting because if you think of the pond system, let's say we have this circle called the pond system, think how a contractor looks at that pond, think how a developer looks at that pond, think how a bird watcher looks at that pond, think how an environmentalist looks at that pond, or how a fisherman looks at that pond. We have a lot of various perspectives on our pond system. I think it's something that is a priority. It's a major part of Mitchell's job because he's got when our tide comes in every hour, 8 hours and 13 minutes and our ponds shift. You know, it has an original purpose. If you think of the contractor, you know, its job is to, you know, collect the runoff and have it go from pond to pond and settle to the bottom, and then when the water goes out, it's clean. I think it means a lot more to a lot of us than that. And so the ponds, we just reported on the ponds at the last, 3 of 4 Greens and Grounds committees. We have a pond study that was outstanding that was done. We just recently, took the pond recommendations. It's all online. We've looked at under HOA resources, there's studies and reports, and we really organized it to say, the folks that did the pond study did a great job, but we turned those recommendations into actionable items. And so we are kind of ticking off the list of actionable items and reporting on those. I believe probably quarterly we'll report on those to the Green and Grounds Committee. So, you know, I think that the pond system is doing well. It's a priority, and like anything else, you know, we can always do a little better at everything. And so we'll just stay focused. The one thing that I would say that, you know, all of you can help us do is, we talk about pond buffers, right? And pond buffers kind of sound like a pain, right? A lot of times we'll put a big net with plants, and that's a pond buffer, and those aren't inexpensive, they're not easy. Sometimes we have bushes that we want to get out of the way so we can see our ponds. The USGA, the United States Golf Association, would tell you the very effective pond buffer. So you as a homeowner who might use things on your grass or Roundup or whatever that is, if you grow a 5-foot, 6-inch high stand of turf. So basically you mow your lawn to a point and then raise your mower height and mow that to about 6 inches. It's the most effective pond buffer that you can have because it has a system of a root network that's gonna grab things. So as far as the ponds are concerned, it's a major part of our life. And it's great if, you know, all of our homeowners didn't, you know, shave the grass all the way down to the pond and just let some turf grow. So those who are interested, as we are, you know, just continue to pay attention to Green and Grounds minutes and continue to look at the pond recommendations, of which we are continuously going back to and creating actionable items from. Will drainage at the 8th and 9th north be fixed during renovation? We have waterfront property when it rains. And I don't mean to chuckle because honestly it's hard when you do have standing water. So we've got a couple spots on north. We've got a spot kind of over by 2, 8 and 9, and I can tell you that Mitchell probably dreams about all the other spots that are on north most nights. So one of the things that we will tackle on north is significant drainage. You know, we're in the low country here. The water doesn't go down very far, and when it rains, it just moves everywhere. So the fact is, we will always be focused on doing it. We had a day where I think we had almost 6 inches of rain. It was a Saturday, and I think I drove over to 4 members' homes because of standing water. And you know, the goal is that water should be gone in 48 hours. You know, that's really the goal. If that water is gone in 48 hours, then the world is doing the right thing. So definitely be focused on drainage, significant drainage during the North Forest renovation. Oh, service. So this is a question related to the service yard. I've been meeting, gosh, almost weekly, I think, with the salt marshes and the golf cottages. And one of the concerns is as you drive down Devil's Elbow. Sorry, I haven't been here that long, I'm trying to get it all right. When you drive down here, we took out a lot of plantings, and so it just looked plain bare. So we have kind of exercised phase 1. Mitchell did a great job of getting the number of trees in. When you drive down here, we're trying to figure out kind of how to green that service yard, and it's not an easy exercise. You know, it's really would require about a 25-foot gate. I'm not sure there's any silver bullet to it, but I'm working with the homeowners over there to just make sure that we're doing, you know, the best we can to screen the service yard, but also to kind of beautify that drive a little bit. So Mitchell has an assistant named Becky, and Becky did a really nice job with some plantings on the corner. Some of the ladies were calling it Becky's Corner. And it's neat because she's proud of it, so she goes by every once in a while and kind of picks the deadheads and all that kind of fun stuff. So we will not pull our focus from phase 2 of that area and just keep working to beautify the areas that need to be beautified and hopefully make a difference for the people in those areas and eventually get the plans to mature to screen that service yard a little bit. Thank you.
All right, so my name is Chris Taylor, for those of you who don't know me. I have a question here, a couple questions. So it says, can Green and Grounds please drive the entire development, not golf courses, to assess the overgrowth in areas? Second part says, there are areas that look like jungles with many types of vegetation growing into one another with dead and broken branches hanging. Nothing has been done for years. There's a reference to the sidewalk, top-in from Moss Creek Drive, really needs clearing. What I will, said this, but if you want to either send an email tonight, we can perhaps schedule something. I'd love to take a ride around with you and talk about the areas you have concerns with. I have availability tomorrow from 10:30 on. So if that works for you, great. If not, it's gonna have to be sometime next week. I'd be happy to ride around with you and we could talk about what you feel needs to be addressed. And then I'll get with Scott. I have a meeting with Scott, a standing meeting with Scott every Friday. And I also will pull in Mitchell if need be and have a conversation. So this is how we get things done. So thank you for this note. So send me an email. If tomorrow works, let me know. If not, let me know by next week. I just have my schedule's packed the next 4 or 5 days. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. That's all we got up here. Any others before we adjourn the evening? Did everybody have their question answered that submitted a question? Any online? Good call. Thank you. We did them already. Holy cow. Okay. We'll only have one. Okay. Well, y'all are letting us off easy. So thank you everybody for your time and attention tonight. Appreciate you. Thank you, everybody.